Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea is finalizing its plans for COVID-19 vaccinations, looking to achieve herd immunity by late autumn. Case numbers are down, but the strict distancing rules could be around for several more weeks. U.S. President Donald Trump becomes the first American leader to be impeached twice. It's likely, however, that he'll serve out the last week of his term with a trial after he's left office. And the South Korean government pledges around $100 billion to commercialize fully autonomous cars by 2027. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. South Korea is aiming to start its vaccine rollout next month and have at least 70% of the population immune by November. But even though case numbers have come down from the peak of the third wave, the authorities might decide not to lower the level of social distancing just yet. Our Hong-Yu reports.
COVID-19 vaccinations will start next month in South Korea, and the government aims to finish inoculations by September. The government and the ruling Democratic Party said Thursday during a meeting that they are targeting herd immunity by November, meaning that by then at least 70% of people in South Korea would have formed immunity against the virus. When the rollout starts, the government will inform people when and where to get their vaccinations through a smartphone application. In the same meeting, officials highlighted the need to reassess the current social distancing guidelines to safeguard the livelihoods of small business owners now that the number of newly confirmed cases is decreasing. But the health authorities who have the final say on the readjustment of any social distancing measures see the decrease to be gradual and is concerned about a possible resurgence if social distancing efforts are loosened.
The resurgence of cases during the third wave lasted for more than 1.5 months. Any decrease would have to last longer than that to call the management and containment successful.
Currently, health authorities believe the current social distancing measures should continue until next month, beyond Korea's traditional holidays Hal, and until when vaccinations begin. Adjustments to social distancing measures are to be announced this week as the current level 2.5 guidelines are due to end on Sunday. Hong-Yu, Arirang News.
The South Korean government is going to start providing more support, including treatment for people experiencing symptoms of depression because of the pandemic, including those who are in self-isolation. Prime Minister Jung Se-kyun said Thursday that it's going to draw up a comprehensive plan to help people improve their mental health, noting the recent data showing that 1 in 4 South Koreans have at some time in their lives experienced depression or anxiety. Jung said there needs to be a change in the policy paradigm to increase the state's responsibility for providing treatment and other help. The state, he said, is going to gradually raise its budget for mental health from 1.6% of all health care spending to 5%, as recommended by the World Health Organization. In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump has become the first American leader to have been impeached twice. But it looks like the next step, a trial in the Senate, won't happen until after Trump has left the White House and Joe Biden has been inaugurated. Kim Yeon-sung reports.
The U.S. House of Representatives on Wednesday voted to impeach President Trump for what the majority of lawmakers said was his role in inciting last week's chaotic and deadly riot at the Capitol. 232 lawmakers voted in favor, and the impeachment motion was passed.
On this vote, the ayes are 232, the nays are 197. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The impeachment resolution charges President Trump with the article, incitement of insurrection. Democrats spearheaded the move, saying President Trump whipped up anger among his supporters last Wednesday when he told the crowd to fight like hell. 10 GOP representatives also broke ranks to vote for impeachment, making it the most bipartisan impeachment vote in U.S. history. In a video message released in response, President Trump condemned the violence he's accused of inciting.
Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for.
In a statement released after the House vote, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he will not reconvene the Senate for a trial before Biden's inauguration. That means that even with the motion passing the House, President Trump will almost certainly remain in office until the end of his term next week. It means Trump is not only the first U.S. president to be impeached twice, but also the first to be impeached twice without being removed from the White House. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
The Supreme Court has issued a final ruling in the corruption case that brought down former South Korean President Park Geun-hye, upholding a sentence of 20 years in prison and a fine of 18 billion won, which is around $16 million. She's got 2 years from another case as well, so that's 22 years in total. The Supreme Court's ruling this morning was on Park's appeal of the sentence issued by the Seoul High Court, which convicted her last year of bribery, abuse of power, and other charges. The South Korean government has announced plans to invest 1.1 trillion won, or about $1 billion, to commercialize fully autonomous cars by 2027. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, together with related ministries, said Thursday that they're going to jointly finance the project over the next 6 years to bring to market vehicles equipped with self-driving technology at level 4, the second highest tier, which in most cases the car is fully autonomous. Cars on the market now have autonomous technologies at level 2, where the system provides only limited support in braking, steering, and acceleration. Cars at level 3 are expected to be launched in the next year or two. The world's biggest tech expo is underway this week, the Consumer Electronics Show. South Korean startups are getting a lot of attention this year. One has taken the concept of the digital assistant to the next level. Another service uses AI to offer high-quality voiceovers. Bae-eun-ji has more.
At this year's completely virtual Consumer Electronics Show, a South Korean tech giant decided to use a virtual human to unveil some of its new products.
Hey y'all, I'm Rhea, a songwriter and DJ.
LG Electronics introduced this new artificial human named Rhea Kim, a 23-year-old female musician who even has her own Instagram page with more than 6,000 followers. Another tech giant in the country, Samsung Electronics, also explained the concept of neural avatars at CES, saying that this technology may even breathe new life into the Mona Lisa. Samsung said this was built off of just one image using AI technology. A startup in South Korea also showcased a service using AI that can be used to dub video content, audiobooks, and podcasts.
This voice acting service allows users to create voiceover recordings from more than 60 different voices. Let's see how it works.
Users just need to choose a character, which can be selected separately for each sentence, and type in the script.
Thanks for watching Arirang News.
Already, more than 170,000 people use this service, which provides convenience for individual content creators and small business owners who want to make video content, as there is no need to hire a voice actor or book a studio. The CEO of the company says the key technology of the service is that it can not only generate voices from the given script, but it can also express emotions.
Our technology is to generate the speech from given text with certain emotional status, or we can also control the tone of the speech and also the rhythm of the speech.
By combining the voices of multiple people, it can also create a whole new voice adjusting for voice tone and age, and can also make the characters speak different languages. The CEO added that he aims to allow anyone making their own unique content to be able to use artificial voice actors in the near future. Bae-eun-ji, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Se-won, Professor of Economics at Ewha Women's University. Professor Kim, good afternoon, and thank you for coming on.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, the Fed has released its latest Beige Book, a report on the economy. It shows a modest recovery, but there's obviously still concern because of the state of the pandemic in America and the lockdowns. Tell us about the Fed's assessment.
According to the most recently released Beige Book, which is the U.S. Fed's compilation of anecdotes from business context, U.S. economy grew modestly in the final weeks of 2020. According to Wednesday's report from Beige Book, there were declines in retail sales and in demand for hospitality and leisure. But other sectors, such as manufacturing and residential real estate, remained strong. So along with the prospects of coronavirus vaccine has bolstered business optimism for 2021. This basic book report modest growth of U.S. economy could be another positive sign on U.S. economic recovery.
And with the Biden administration coming in, expectations that there'll be huge amounts of money out there have 10-year inflation expectations touching 2%. Been a while since we've seen that high. Some say this would prompt the Fed to taper some of its quantitative easing. Tell us about that and whether you think that might be an appropriate path to take.
But that is a very important question, Devin. Even though we are stuck in a worsened business situation and low employment due to COVID pandemic, I would say one of the largest impact in the long run, like over 3 years, is the inflation. Every government actually, like including the Korean government and U.S. government, provides direct cash support on households and businesses over pandemic. So people will purchase more goods and services, which goes to higher price level or inflation. This is something totally different from quantitative easing of 2008 global economic crisis. So even though U.S. Fed confirmed that they won't increase interest rate until 2023, they can adjust inflation interest rate policy when inflation goes above 2% level on annual basis. So we need to pay attention to how inflation develops this year.
Indeed. And turning to the markets, stocks in New York overnight were up, with the exception of the Dow. It seems investors are not too concerned about what's going on with President Trump. But what's the story in the global markets?
Actually, many expected that U.S. market enters a correction phase from the beginning of this year because U.S. market skyrocketed last year without fundamental economic support. But U.S. market increased until the beginning of this week, and then market is mixed between Dow Jones and Nasdaq yesterday. Dow Jones marginally decreased by 0.03%, and Nasdaq increased by 0.4% yesterday. So if this mixed situation continues, there could be longer adjustment period in the first quarter.
And Korean stocks were up and down today, but trading in a fairly tight range. Again, we see retail investors buying, institutions selling. Tell us about the local market and where you see it going.
As concerns on the gap between stock market and real economic activities increases, domestic market is more fluctuating from the beginning of this year. But Kospi has exceeded 3,100 level due to individual investors' aggressive stock purchase. In today's market, Kospi did not change much by 0.05%, but Kosdaq increased by 0.1%. In both markets, individual investors bought stocks, but institutional investors sold.
That's a trend we've been seeing a lot in recent sessions. Now, finally, Professor, we see bank loans to households rose last year by a record amount, 100 trillion won. That's a little under $100 billion. And this is despite the government putting strict rules on the amount people can borrow to buy real estate. So why is debt rising? And what do you make of the situation?
According to recent report by Bank of Korea, loan to households last year increased by 100 trillion won, which is the largest increase after 2004. Of course, households borrow money for many different reasons, like buying houses, covering living expenses, financing stock investment, and so on. But it is quite clear that, according to another report from Bank of Korea, loan to household is related to stock investment. In the third quarter of last year, household stock investment increased by 32 trillion won, along with loan increase and by withdrawing more money from their savings account. So we can say that in aggregate, households are borrowing more money and withdrawing more cash from their savings account for fueling stock investment.
That sure would explain a lot, Professor. Thanks so much for shedding light on that for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Devin.
And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.